What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Decent clap, not great. It was okay. So, the PSA Dagger Micro. I said I was going to get to 1,000 rounds and give you guys an update on it. And that's what this video is about. I've had this since like May or June. So 6-7-ish months to get 1,000 rounds on it. And it's been good. So what I want to do is I want to quickly go over the features of this gun if you aren't familiar with it. I do have a more detailed review if you want to check that out. Then I'm going to give you guys a close-up of the slide, the barrel, the internals, so we can see how the wear and tear looks after just 1,000 rounds. Then I want to talk a little bit about the testing that I've done. It's all pretty standard stuff, but because there's a lot more rounds to this than most guns I review, I want to spend a little bit of time on testing. Then I'll tell you what I think about overall, and then you can subscribe to the channel and go on your happy day. Alright, the Dagger is a high-value Glock clone. It's made by Palmetto State Armory, and they bring the value. Depending on which version, you're looking 300 to 500-ish for the most part. They have a compact size dagger, which is kind of like a Glock 19, and they have a bunch of variants of that. This, again, is the Micro, so it's kind of going to be like a G43X or a G48. Again, there is tons of different colors and versions and sizes and combinations. There's so many I couldn't even begin to tell you all. The one I have is just like a Glock 43X as far as the size. They do take Glock magazines, so you can either use the Glock 10 round or the Shield Arms Metal 15 rounds, which is the one I would recommend. I like the grip shape and definitely the texture more than the Glock branded guns. It has not overly aggressive. I wouldn't mind if it was a little more aggressive, but it's not too aggressive. It's not going to tear up your skin or your hands, but it's aggressive enough that when you're shooting this little gun, it doesn't jump around and go crazy. Magazine release is fine. I find it easy to reach, drop some magazines freely. Nothing to complain about there. The trigger's not great. If you're going to get a dagger gun, you're either going to have to consider upgrading the trigger, which I don't love to do on carry guns, or you're going to have to deal with an average at best trigger. It's a hinge trigger. It kind of reminds me of a Smith & Wesson M&P 1.0. It's not terrible. I'm more than capable of getting good hits with this small gun, but it's not the best trigger. 5-second break. You can get up close and personal and see what I mean. Not terrible, but definitely not great. The rail is a single cutout, very similar to a Glock rail. If you're going to put a light on this, I recommend the Streamlight TLR7 Sub. The sub version is made for the really small micro compact guns, and that's the light I recommend. There's others that are good as well. You'll notice on each side of the gun there's some memory notches or whatever you want to call them. It's just a good spot to keep your thumb on your support hand and your trigger finger. I really like that when I'm shooting. Just gives me a spot between the takedown lever and the memory notch to rest my hand. The slide release is fine. It's very small. It's not going to get snagged. You can easily use it as a slide release or as a side stop, so no issues. It's not ambi, but no issues with it. It's for a very small carry gun. It's a good location and shape, size. I don't think anyone's going to ride it either. All right, the slide. So the slide and the barrel are both stainless steel. The barrel has a black DLC finish. This particular slide has a gray Cerakote finish. And being it's Cerakote, it's held up extremely well. When we get to the testing footage, you'll see I drew this from the holster a ton because it's a carry gun. And there's very little wear, so I was pleasantly surprised how little wear it has for something that has a Cerakote finish. It has decent serrations. They're okay. They're not great. With an optic on there, it's usually a little easier just to use the optic to help rack the slide, but decent serrations, not bad at all. The sights, again, depending on which version of the dagger you get, will come with different sights. They're not plastic sights unlike the Glocks, which is great. They are metal. This particular one has a set of 3-dot white sights. Fine, no issues, no problems. And they're Glock pattern sights. So if you don't like these or the one you get, you can always swap them out with other Glock sights. The optics cut is great as well. The reason I say it's great is there's no accessory plates with the compact size or the micro. The the optic screws right down to the slide, and that's the way I prefer it. The compact is an RMR footprint. This is going to be either the Holosun K series or the RMSC or whatever you want to call that footprint. Most really small micro red dots take that footprint. What I have on here for most of the time I've had this gun is a SIG Romeo X, and if you don't know, the Romeo X series of red dots, the X series specifically, tough to say that word, is one of the best, most underrated red dots on the market. The X Romeos are fantastic. This is a great red dot. I've done a video on that if you want to check it out. All right, that's the quick and dirty review version of the gun. Now let's take a little bit of a close-up on how it looks as far as the wear and tear. I stopped the camera for a second because I wanted to clean and wipe down everything really good. I don't want any dirt or dust to cover any imperfections is what I just did. But I have this flashlight here because I'm blind and I need an extra light to see. But looking at the frame looks pretty darn spotless. And if you look in the crevices, there's some dirt in there, but the rails are like spotless, and the locking block looks good, and you know, the frame looks pretty newish. The guide rod looks good as well. Not that I would expect any problems, but it's a dual captured guide rod, and that looks fine. Now obviously the barrel has some wear. Anytime you have 1,000 rounds on a micro compact gun, I don't think the wear is abnormal or concerning, but obviously there's a little bit of wear on the top along the hood. There's a little bit on the top of the barrel, especially when you lock the slide to the rear. If you look underneath the barrel, there's a couple lines down there. And being it's stainless steel, the same as the slide, I don't think this is going to cause any corrosion or rust issues. Nothing I look at this barrel and get overly concerned with, but you know, that's why I want to do the close-up so you can make up your own decision. Underneath on the, what are they called? The locking lugs, I believe. I should really remember this after I worked at Roscoe Manufacturing for 2 years. But there's a little bit of wear on both sides of the lugs. And that I found a little strange. Not overly concerning, but the other Glock clones I have, I just took a couple of them apart, and I don't see that on those. The feed ramp, I cleaned and polished up the feed ramp the best I could. I could do it a little more. It was just a quick and dirty one. And it cleaned up pretty well. Like you can see the stainless shining pretty well on that, even after all those rounds with the junky ammo. I don't have a bore snake to look down inside the scope, down inside the barrel, excuse me, but putting the flashlight through and looking at the rifling in there, it looks pretty good. It looks clean. I don't see any major issues. There's some brass or whatever down in there. You know, I was recently shooting some really cheap ammo called Tehran Turkish ammo, and it was absolutely junk. I had more malfunctions with this case of ammo than any ammo I've ever shot. Every single gun I shot it had multiple malfunctions, especially if it was a comped gun. This thing just did not like comp guns. Anyway, that's the barrel. The barrel looks pretty good. Let's talk about the slide. I think the lack of wear on the slide is the thing I'm most impressed and surprised at. The right side of the slide where the side of the ejection is, there is like little to no wear, a little bit near the muzzle, but very little. Again, especially with it being a Cerakote slide, I expected a lot more wear. On the left side of the gun, there's several small scratches, both on the back side of the gun. There's a couple weird marks on the back side of the gun. I don't know what that's from. And there's also several on the front near the muzzle. And that's probably from taking it in and out of the holster. Maybe I have a tendency to hit the left side of the slide against the holster or something. But overall, looking at the outside of the slide, it looks pretty darn clean for 1,000 rounds. Again, being it's stainless steel, I don't think it's going to rust or have any corrosion issues, but it's something to keep in mind. Cerakote is not typically as corrosion resistant as like an anodizing or something like that. Finally, the inside of the slide, looking at the rails up and down. Now, I did keep this gun pretty well lubricated when I was shooting it. I try to always do that with all my guns, and it's really clean. There's a tiny silver mark I see near the ejection port there, near the extractor. But the rails themselves are very clean. The whole front of the slide where the barrel would sit is very clean, which you would expect. Now the back end of the slide, like above where the striker rides, there's a little bit of wear in there. Probably a little bit more than the other Glock clones that I took apart and the Glock brand guns I took apart and looked at. But again, I don't think it's anything concerning or something I would really worry about. Just looks like some good, honest wear. Okay, 3 quick things before I get into the testing. Holsters. It's going to work with most Glock 43, 48, whatever compatible holsters. I only have 2 to verify this on. This one is this Incog, Safariland Incog, and it worked fine with this. And that's when it was in most of the time. Second, Natchez. You knew I had to think Natchez, unless you're new here. If you are new here, Natchez is the biggest supporter of my channel. I like to thank them in every single video. If you need an optic or pew-pews or anything like that for your blaster, hunting, fishing, camping, reloading, any of that stuff, they got you covered. They always have lots of good deals. Third, I forgot what the third item was, and I didn't take notes. So anyway, moving on, testing. I want to talk about the malfunctions first because there was very, very few of them, but I don't want to forget. I had one malfunction when I was shooting left-handed, one hand only left-handed. So I'm going to take some blame for that, probably the majority of the blame, because besides that, that's really the only malfunctions I had. So being that was the only one, I was probably limp wristing it like a wuss, not holding it correctly with my left hand. I don't know. Then, as I mentioned earlier, that Tehran ammo from Turkey was garbage. I don't blame the gun at all for that because I had malfunctions in every single gun I put it in, whether it be a Glock or a SIG or a Canic, 2 or 3 other Glock clones I was testing, a Shadow Systems. It had malfunctions in everything constantly. Great way to practice malfunction clearing, and especially if that gun had a comp, it was even worse. Just terrible, terrible. Anyway. Oh, the third thing was, how do I show you guys that I shot 1,000 rounds? Because every time I do a 1,000 round or 5,000 round review, I always get haters in the comment, you didn't really shoot that much. And that would be the most boring if I roll in 1,000 round of me shooting right now. The video would be 20 minutes. So I thought about doing a separate video of all the shooting footage I have of shooting the gun. I don't have all 1,000 rounds, but I have the majority of it. Would that be interesting? Just me shooting 1,000 times, or probably 800 or 900 times, whatever it is that I have on film. Would that be interesting? Would that be boring? Is it worth it? Just ignore the trolls. I don't know. What do you think? Anyway, the shooting. I did a ton of drawing from the holster. It's a small, everyday carry gun, so more than anything else, I drew from the holster as much as I possibly could, just to try to keep the testing as realistic as possible. I did a ton of different drills. If I was at the range doing a specific drill, even if it was with a big duty competition gun, I did it with this as well, just to get those good reps. Of course, I hit a ton of steel. I did a bunch of shooting one-handed. That's been my goal the second half of the year, is every time I go to the range to shoot both right-handed and left-handed and get a little bit of practice at that, because it's something I'm not great with. I shot rubber dummies. I did a bunch of shooting out of a carry bag, off-body carry slings and bags. In the summertime, I carry that way very often, so I did a bunch of practice with this in those carry bags. Magazine exchanges, of course, because Neo Mag is life. Now, I like to practice magazine exchanges with different guns. And looking at the footage, it's kind of sad. As I reviewed it before this review, it's kind of sad to see like everything was green and sunny and warm, and I was in a t-shirt and shorts, and as it went on, the trees got darker and the footage got gloomier, and I put more clothes on and it's getting colder and colder, so that was kind of sad to see. I did carry the gun for several weeks on and off over the past seven months, mostly all in appendix. And then I also did a lot of off-body carry. I don't like wearing pants or shoes in the summer. I wear short shorts, and I hate things in my pockets. So sometimes I would use the Neo Mag beltless system, and a lot of times I would use my Vertex sling to off-body carry. And that was the gun I put in that bag more than any other for some reason. I don't know why. I just always grabbed that gun when I was off-body carrying. So that's a quick summary of what I've done with it the past 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it's been, and the shooting. And again, went over the malfunctions, the type of shooting. And pros for me is, just like the compact, I'm very impressed with the Dagger. It performs a lot better than what you would assume with the price. It's a super affordable $350, $400 gun, some of them, and they perform a lot better than what you may expect going in based on the price. So the price is the biggest pro for me. I like the optics cut, how it screws right down to the slide. That's solid. The sights are good that they're not plastic. I like the grip texture. I like that it takes Glock parts. The only thing I would probably change is the trigger. Now I give PSA a pass on it because of the price. I don't make a big deal about it. How can we complain? This gun, $350 on sale, you can get it. But it's not a great trigger. So you got to be, again, you got to be okay with an average trigger or plan on upgrading it. That's probably the only knock I could have on it. But overall, it's a great little gun. I will still continue to carry it and shoot it and use it, and that's a big deal. It may not sound like a big deal, but I'm blessed to do this, and I constantly get accessories and firearms, and I can't keep all the stuff. I end up giving it a lot of it away to my friends. I just don't have the space. So when I say I'm going to keep and use something going forward, that's a very big compliment, especially when something is very, very budget friendly like this. Usually the really budget friendly stuff I give away, and I keep all the really nice Gucci stuff, but this is pretty nice. I think I'm going to keep it. All right. I think that's everything I have to go over with you. Thank you to PSA. They've sent a few guns out for me to review. I greatly appreciate, I think 3. I greatly appreciate their support. Hopefully we can continue to work together going forward because they put out some cool stuff and they're always big on the value. Of course, I want to thank Natchez, the biggest supporter of the Tiberious Gibb channel. Now, Santa wants you to subscribe to the channel. He's home now. He's resting in the North Pole. Before he went to the North Pole, he told me all he wants for Christmas next year is for everyone to subscribe to this channel so I can get to 100,000 subs because we are really far away. And that's the goal in 2025, 100,000 subs. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting. Definitely thank you for subscribing. I will see you in the next video. Be good. Stay blessed. Peace.